Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. Today on the channel we're talking about building a preparedness library. So let's get to it. All right, guys, we live in a day and age where everybody is dependent on the internet to get information. But what happens when you no longer have access to your digital personal assistant or Google or Wikipedia or ChatGPT or whatever kind of artificial intelligence they roll out next? What happens when the grid goes down and there's a massive cyber attack like what just happened in Italy and you don't have access to the internet? That's when everybody's going to be storming the libraries for information. You know, back in the day, everybody used to have an encyclopedia in their house. And for that reason, it's important that you have a hard copy of all of the information that you could potentially need if the grid were to go down for a sustained period of time. Now, this doesn't mean that we don't leverage technology to our benefit for storing information. I've done videos before about storing PDFs and survival related documents on digital devices. So you could do this on an SD card, an iPad, or just a standard throwaway $99 tablet. You can protect that against electromagnetic pulse by simply wrapping it in a non-conductive liner, be it a cloth or something else to that effect, and then you wrap that in tin foil. I know it sounds crazy, but that'll actually prevent the E1 pulse of an electromagnetic pulse from coupling into it and destroying it. That's a great thing to have, but the fact is you still need to power that somehow. Nothing really beats a hard copy book. Now, before I get into the specific categories of books that you might want to consider for your preparedness library, I want to show you guys something else. This is Write in the Rain notepads. You can get most of these books and a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about from CanadianPreparedness.com. You can get military style journals like so, or you could just get a little book like that. You can also get actual all-weather copy paper and cardstock. And the cool thing about this is that you can actually make your own survival reference material that is waterproof. So what we've done here is we've just went on to Google Images and we got our Write in the Rain paper, not to be used with inkjet printers. And we basically printed in color survival reference material. And this is going to be water resistant. It's a very strong, durable paper. And just to give you an example, you can also print out your own topographical maps on this kind of paper. So it's incredibly useful. So I figured I would show you guys that. So what do we have here? So going from your left to right, we have food storage and food preservation. We have hunting type books. We have wild edibles and foraging. We have bushcraft and survival. We have medicine. We have tactical and military. And then we also have general preparedness and then topographical maps. So I'm going to go over all these books. I'm going to give you some ideas with respect to what you can put in your own preparedness library, and feel free to post in the comment section below any ideas you have for books that we might not have thought about here. So starting over here, we have food storage for preppers. This is a week-by-week guide for surviving the apocalypse, okay? So in this book, they talk about a variety of different things, not only with respect to food, but also things like making soap. It's very well illustrated, it's color pages. This one is called Food Storage and Survival. We've actually interviewed Angela Pasquette, the author of this book, on the channel before. One of the great things about this book is it gives you a really simple breakdown of the shelf lives of various types of food. It goes into, foods that are indefinite, for example, sugar, honey, salt, baking soda, baking powder, cornstarch will all last indefinitely. We also have the Prepper's Pantry Handbook. This book goes over various food storage methods. It's very similar to the last books that I talked about. Gives you some recipes, just general food storage information. Another book you'll want to get is on canning. These are more general reference guides. This is more specific just for canning. It's not well illustrated. I would say this is something for somebody who's a bit more advanced and wanted some more advanced tips. With respect to composting, okay, so this is where we get into the realm of homesteading. As you know, we've had our resident gardener on the channel several times, gardening in Canada, and she's a soil scientist, so this is right up her alley. If you want more information on that, go check out her channel below. So in this book, they talk about all different types of composting specific to Canada. This is basically fuel for your garden. Everybody needs to know how to compost stuff. Specifically, just like the canning guide, getting a book that is dedicated towards dehydrating food. Permaculture for beginners. If you don't know what permaculture is, it's the idea that everything within your homestead in some way supplements or complements everything else. So the runoff from your aquaponics is going to be what fortifies your soil. The waste from your animals is what you use to fertilize your garden next year, and so on and so forth. So this book goes into building green homes, passive solar design, growing edible plant communities and forest gardens, using no-till and natural farming methods, also raising livestock and ecological foraging techniques, among many other things. And once again, this is a very well illustrated, easy to follow book. You should have a general reference guide for vegetable gardening. This is a very good book, very simple to understand. It walks you through the duration of the growing season required for each one of these vegetables. It talks about when to transplant, when to sow, all the information that you would need to grow specific vegetables, and it has a whole section tailored towards each. So some sort of general reference material like that. This book, Back to Basics, goes over basically just a variety of different self-sufficiency applications. So we're talking about everything here from digging a well and how to find water, how to drill the well, buying and working land, raising livestock. This is a very similar book. This is John Seymour's Self-Sufficient Life and How to Live It. And the cool thing with this is that it has some really neat illustrations on how you can arrange your homestead ideally, and it shows all the components there. So you have your feed for your cattle, you have your vegetable garden, you know, your chicken coop and your beehives, and where everything should be positioned on the farm on a 1 acre plot of land. Next is hunting. So reference material for mammals and fish. You need to know what's out there if you're talking about hunting, so you need to know what type of game is in your region. The Peterson field guides are good because they provide you all of the information that you need to know on the mammals. They provide you the tracks, where they're located, what their numbers are in various parts of the country, and of course, freshwater fish. You might live by the ocean, so then of course you will need reference guide for seawater fish. This is just another Lone Pine mammals book, slightly easier to understand. Generally speaking, there's not a lot of mammals out there that you're going to be eating if you're hunting deer, elk, moose, and then of course your smaller game. This book here is the ultimate guide to home butchering. Okay, so everything from how to butcher hogs, cattle, and it gives you a good visual guide there as well. I would suggest getting several butchering books because it's something which is very difficult to learn from pictures. There's a lot of good videos on YouTube with respect to how to field dress and how to butcher your wild game or your animals, okay? Essential Fishing Handbook by Field and Stream. So this is just, you know, basics of fishing. Fishing is it's very simple, but it's also very complex. It's important that you know the topography and you understand where typically fish are going to be in any body of water. This just gives you a breakdown of all those types of things, what type of lures to use for fishing, different techniques. And because this is a field and stream guide, it is waterproof and it's also incredibly durable. Once you catch the fish, you gotta know how to cook them, hence the Canadian Fishing Handbook. We have the Outdoor Life Hunting and Gathering Survival Manual. This is another very well illustrated visual guide. Just more books on butchering. This is the complete book of butchering, smoking, curing, and sausage making. Getting more species specific, So deer hunting in particular is what a lot of people are going to be hunting. Shows you, typical landscapes and where you would put your tree stand or your blind, things like that. More field and stream, more hunting reference material, just more hunting guides in general. This one is called the Trapper's Bible. It's kind of an older book, so the illustrations are in black and white. This is a more advanced book. If you can find books that are more simple and go over the fundamentals, I think that would be something I would recommend. Up next is wild edibles and flora identifications. So we have another field guide to trees, so just basic flora identification. We have edible and medicinal plants of Canada. With these edible plant books, you're definitely going to want something that is colored and that shows actual images. A lot of these plants are going to be in the United States as well, but of course Lone Pine is a Canadian company. Mother Earth plants for health and beauty, something for the ladies. This just goes over a variety of different things, so you could make soap, various types of potpourris, fragrances, stuff like that. Mushrooms of Western Canada. This is definitely something you're going to want to have a good visual reference guide for, so you absolutely need the visual aspect. This is supplementary. I don't think this book in and of itself is sufficient. You need a book like this that shows real pictures of the actual mushrooms, because mushrooms can be very poisonous and very bad for you if you eat the wrong ones. Just more foraging material, some more Lone Pine stuff. And this one actually could probably be in the medicinal section, but this is the Boreal Herbal Wild Food and Medicinal Plants of the North, and it gives you a lot of really good images of the plants in question. Of course, when Big Pharma is no more, we're gonna have to go back to nature in order to find cures for what ails us. Moving over to Bushcraft. So these are the live and learn cards. They go over route finding, wayfinding, first aid, survival fishing, fire building, shelter building, and they're just really simple cards that you could throw that in your backpack and have some general, reference material. This is just a pack of survival playing cards with survival tips written on them. We have essential knots. So this is just a small book. I would say that this is ideal because it's small. You can get a more extensive, complete guide for knots, but this is something you're actually going to put in your backpack. Even if you're just going out for the weekend, you can try some knots. This is a pocket outdoor survival guide. It is waterproof, and it just goes over a lot of the basics of emergency preparedness and survival. This is the ultimate guide to survival shelters. So there's a variety of different ways that you can build shelters in the woods, and this basically goes over all of those things. This is the Bushcraft box set. This is by Dave Canterbury. Many of you know who that is. This is basically his life's work across 4 books. Very advanced bushcraft skills, going over everything from first aid, trapping, gathering, cooking food. Canadian Outdoors Survival Guide, general information. We have the Ultimate Bushcraft Survival Guide, so a variety of different bushcraft books. The Scouting Guide to Survival, so this is by the Boy Scouts of America, and just some more field and stream. This is the Total Outdoorsman Survival Manual. Up next is survival medicine. Now, the holy grail of survival medical books is the Survival Medicine Handbook. This was specifically written for a situation where there is no hospitals, there is no doctors, where first aid is not going to be sufficient to meet your needs. So this was written by a medical doctor and his wife who's a nurse practitioner. A great complement to the Survival Medicine Handbook for somebody who does have a medical background is the Emergency War Surgery, the Survivalist Medical Desk Reference Book. This goes into a lot more depth than many people are going to be comfortable with. Hence the reason why I say for somebody with a medical background and it's not illustrated that well, you're going to have to be able to speak the language to really understand and apply a lot of the stuff in this book, but still good to have. General first aid manual, of course. It's a variety of different emergency manuals. Up next is the Tim McGuelch Essential Pandemic Survival Guide. Now, the pandemic that we just endured, depending on who you talk to, was potentially less lethal than a lot of people thought it would be. But there is a potential for a more lethal pandemic within our lifetimes, and this actually gives you some very useful information and tips on how to navigate such a situation. Wilderness First Aid. This is a big book of backyard medicine, the ultimate guide to homegrown herbal remedies. In such case that there was a shortage of pharmaceutical medication, making your own medication from nature could potentially be an asset. Up next is the military and tactical section. So this is the Green Beret Survival Guide. It goes over a variety of different situations, like how to drive through a riot without being killed. A lot of this is focused around the security aspects of survival. Another one is 100 deadly survival skills. So they go over a variety of different things in this book, like building a tactical nightstand, for example, how to combat clear your home, how to profile an intruder, just a variety of different security scenarios that you might encounter. This is the U.S. Army Reconnaissance and Survival Handbook. So this book goes over recon and surveillance tactics, techniques and strategies straight from the U.S. Army. This is the official U.S. Army Survival Manual, and I believe this is an updated version, so it's a bit more colorful, a bit more well illustrated, so just another complete guide from a military perspective, of course. This is the U.S. Army Ranger Handbook, so it goes over communications, demolitions, movements, patrols, mountaineering, urban operations, evasion and survival, all from, of course, a Army Ranger perspective. This is the complete tracker guide, so this is primarily for the purpose of tracking animals, but a lot of the tips in this book will help you to be better at identifying sign, as they call it, which is the sign that something had passed through an area. We have the SAS Survival Handbook by John Lofty Wiseman, which is another really complete guide and well updated. I believe this book has been revised numerous times over the years. So we have survival retreats, a prepper's guide to creating a sustainable and defendable refuge. So they go over things like perimeter security, having an escape plan, where to build certain buildings and everything like that. And also the Total Gun Manual is just a good primer for anybody who's just getting into firearms, how to clean and maintain guns, the different calibers, what the different calibers are ideally suited to, and things of that nature. And of course, because it's field and stream, it is very nicely illustrated with easy to follow diagrams. Knots from a prepper perspective. So the knots that we showed here were more general purpose. These are more preparedness specific knots. Auto repair for dummies, any sort of home repair guide, especially these For Dummies books, can be incredibly useful. You're not going to be able to have the help on hand as readily as you would when times are good. So you're going to have to know how to fix those things yourself. This is a new book that we just got in here. It's called the Cyber Attack Survival Manual, and I have a feeling that this field is going to evolve a lot in the coming years ahead. So this is more of a practical preparedness book, not necessarily for the end of the world, but just how to navigate the increasingly complicated space that is cyberspace. We have the Badass Prepper's Handbook that just has a lot of innovative, offbeat tips on what to do in challenging situations. We have a book called When the Grid Fails, What to Do When Disaster Strikes. There's lots of just general how to prepare for the end of the world type books. This is the Natural Disaster Survival Handbook. So if you're in a place that's prone to natural disasters, that's what this book specializes in. We have the Prepared for Anything Survival Manual by Outdoor Life. We have another emergency survival manual, so lots of cool little hacks in that book. And speaking of hacks, Ultimate Survival Hacks is a great book for just how to use and MacGyver using various trinkets that you might find around your house for survival related purposes. And Outdoor Life, they have so many books. There's so many different ways of presenting a lot of the same material, but still useful to have. We also have the EMP report of the Commission to assess the threats to the United States of electromagnetic pulse attack. That's a pretty lengthy title. They could have just said understanding electromagnetic pulse. This is good because it gives you an understanding of what you can expect if there was an EMP. The complete modern blacksmith, okay? So you may have to go back to the point where you're making your own tools. We may find ourselves in a situation where you have to make your own shovels, knives. I think knowing the fundamentals of blacksmithing, or at least having that at your disposal, may prove useful. Most people are never going to have to do it, but you just never know, right? One of the best books for nuclear war and survival, of course, is Nuclear War and Survival Skills. This was by Crescent Kearney, and the adjunct author, Stephen Harris, made an update to the book specific to the Ukraine and Russia conflict. We've interviewed him several times on the channel. And what we're gonna do for this video is, if you purchase 5 books from Canadian Preparedness, we're gonna throw in one of these for free. And for that, you're gonna use coupon code NUCLEARBOOK, all in caps, all one word. So that's gonna get you 10% off the books, plus you're gonna get a free nuclear war survival guide with that. And this is incredibly extensive, and it's actually easy to follow. A lot of these black and white old school books are not easy to follow. But what Crescent Kearney did when he wrote this book was that he constantly revised it so that it was very easy for the average person to understand it. Everything you need to know about surviving nuclear war is in this book. To this day, it's still the best reference guide for that particular crisis scenario. We also have the Ultimate Prepper's Handbook. This is 600 pages of just every possible thing you would want to know. Probably one of the most visually stunning of books is the Ultimate Prepper Survival Guide by James Wesley Rawls, and it has just a variety of different potential scenarios that it goes into and a variety of different ways to survive. This is a great introduction to somebody who perhaps is on the fence about whether or not they should commit to being more prepper conscious. And last but not least, we have our topographical maps, okay? So it's important, and we've emphasized the importance of having a topographical map that gives you a more detailed understanding of the terrain in your region. Lots of maps don't provide a whole lot of detail, but there are maps like these backroad map books, which actually go into immense amounts of detail about all the different aspects of the terrain, the elevation, the various creeks, streams, landmarks. This is going to be very important, you know, especially if you have to bug out. All right, guys, so as I said, if you want to pick up any of these books, a lot of them are available from CanadianPreparedness.com. Some you're only going to be able to get from Amazon or other distributors, but if you get 5 books from Canadian Preparedness, we're going to throw in a free copy of Nuclear War and Survival Skills, a hard copy. You can also get this for free on a PDF. Just Google PDF Nuclear War Survival Skills, and that will come up, and you can put that in your EMP proof tablet that we talked about at the beginning of this video. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the comment section below, and don't forget, if you have any ideas for different types of books to add to your preparedness library, please post that in the comment section below. I'm always interested in hearing how we can expand our own library of offerings here at Canadian Preparedness. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Canadian Prepper out.
The best way to support this channel is to support yourself by gearing up at CanadianPreparedness.com, where you'll find high-quality survival gear at the best prices, no junk, and no gimmicks. Use discount code PREPPINGGEAR for 10% off. Don't forget, the strong survive, but the prepared thrive. Stay safe.